ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Brittingham.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. You know, your business, why are you doing it? You know, how is it going to change the world and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle, but I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me because people only see me working hard at anything that I'm doing whenever they see me.
Focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, who's steady?
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful so you do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. All right, welcome back. Excited to have my friend Chad Hufford on the show from Veritas, Alaska. It's the day after my beloved Philadelphia Eagles lost in the playoffs, but we found a way to weave that in to our conversation today, our future blueprint conversation with Chad. Chad was telling me in the pre-show, your son, your 5-year-old, is an Eagles fan. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I grew up watching football and basketball. My dad's from Iowa. We were raised on Big Ten sports. So it's always been a huge part of my life. But as a father, I've got 6 kids, like you mentioned. You know, I can't sit there all Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon watching football. So it's kind of a part of my life I had to give up. But now the kids are getting into it. We had 5 of our 6 kids playing football this past year, including my 15-year-old daughter. And Jeff, it's something really special when your daughter comes to you and it's like, hey, Dad, I need to work on my routes. And she's all done up. She's got the nails and the hair and all that. She's almost 6 feet tall. She's all legs. She's beautiful. Looks like a freaking model. And she's out there running routes. So the only one that didn't play was my 3-year-old. He was too young, but
what's his problem
out there? Yeah, we're feeding him extra, trying to get him to grow up a little faster. But no, so the 5-year-old, he is just into it. That's all he wants to talk about. And he'll draw up plays. And so Michigan is my team. I'm more of a college football fan. And we had some family over on it was a little over a week ago, the week after New Year's, for the college football playoffs. Michigan beat Washington, got a national championship. I've been waiting 27 years for this. My 5-year-old is wearing an Eagles jersey. I'm like, where's your Michigan stuff? He's like, Dad, I'm an Eagles fan. This is what I'm wearing. So he's pretty hardcore. Had a rough day yesterday, but we were just talking about how, that's a part of life. You have dreams, you have things that are important to you. The more passion you have, the more the setbacks are going to hurt, but it's worth it. The pain is worth it. And just encouraging him to stick with it, not giving up on his joy in that, because it's a 2-part process. The more you care about something, the more it stings when it doesn't go your way, but you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you keep moving forward. So I think a good life lesson for him.
Yeah, for sure. And look, to me, I think this little moment we're sharing here, And I'm glad we got to, because actually, as a Michigan fan, my incredible producer, Chris Stone, and his team at Cast Ahead, Chris is a massive Michigan fan. I was so happy for him and you and everybody else that's a Michigan faithful. But one of my son's high school assistant coaches is actually Chad Henne.
No kidding.
Nope.
That is super cool.
Yep. Yeah. Chad's right here in our town. Just a great, upstanding man. You know, he was a Wilson high school football star, 4-year starter for the program, went on to Michigan, of course, went into the NFL. Yeah. He was that guy in the second to last Chiefs Super Bowl that came in off the bench and iced that first down to win the game. And, remarkable career. And we had a Chad Henne night locally, and I got in line for no other reason than to just, again, thank him for choosing to move back to our town, to call home again. And I thought it was just so cool that he's here. Because look, we're in Pennsylvania right now. There's a few inches of snow on the ground. Obviously nothing to compare with Alaska, but there's a lot of nicer places to live for. He's been exposed to a lot of nicer places, right? Drafted into Jacksonville, played Miami, and just to call home again, I thought was really special. And he's doing a great job with the kids. So there's that whole football, Eagles, Michigan connection right out of the gate. And I think it's appropriate that we shared it because, Chad is somebody, as a financial planner, who can cultivate an interest and a passion in a 5-year-old and foster that. I think that's important to building that future blueprint for your clients. And really, what are we doing this for if we don't have actual legacy? Right. And so how do you get people excited about their financial futures?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because I think one of the first things is pulling the finances out of it and really just trying to get them excited about the future. Like what does a meaningful, fulfilled life look like to them? We ask people, if you never had to go to work another day in your life, if you didn't need your job, if you did not need your paycheck, what would you want your life to look like? Who would you want to become? What would you want to be doing? What are the elements in your life that you would want to change? What are you doing right now that you don't want to have to do if you were financially independent? But more importantly, what are the things that you would add? What are the hobbies, the things that really challenge you, that stir up your soul, that you aren't able to do because you don't either have the time or the resources? Because we don't want money to ever be the goal. When money is the objective, things can get destructive pretty quickly, and people can get distracted at best, but it can really pull people into a downward cycle. Money is a tool. Money helps us build the life that we want, but it is not the end all be all. It is not what we are striving for. To die on a bigger pile of money should be a side effect of good planning. But if that's our objective, life is going to be pretty empty. And we see that a lot, where people live in scarcity because money is their focus instead of what the money is able to do for them. They don't know what's meaningful to them. They don't know what's important. They don't know what a truly fulfilled and abundant life looks like. And I think that's really important. For my 5-year-old son, it's football. If he could watch football all day, that's what he want to do. But, as a little kid, little kids dream. And I think at some point that gets ironed out of us, as if it's a negative thing. And yeah, when you're 5 and 6, your dreams might be a little crazy, but that's okay. It's okay to dream crazy. Mm-hmm. I think when we kill off our dreams under the guise of pragmatism and practicality, but we try to instill that in people again. Like if you never need to go to work again, you never need a paycheck, like, what are the things that you could do? I think the amount of impact that people can have in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, those might be the most fulfilling, biggest impact years of their life, where people have the most to give back, not the least. And I think there's a tendency for people to think like, hey, I'm retired. I've kind of put in my time. I've given what I could. And now I'm just going to take 25 years of vacations. Every day is Saturday. And that's might be fun for a while, but people need more than that. And that's what we're trying to help people find. So when I started this, I thought my job was make sure that people didn't run out of money in retirement. And what I've realized is more than that, is to make sure that they don't run out of purpose.
I love that you ended that moment there on the purpose, the point of purpose and living with purpose. Loved everything you shared about taking the money out. Obviously, people would say, okay, Chad, that's a real easy thing to say. You're successful, you have family, stability, all of this stuff. But the reality is, if you work as a system, if you identify those goals, these things can happen. We hear stories all the time of the custodian that left $5 million to the college, and he worked at the college for 40 years, right? We hear these stories all the time. And in that example, the custodian's purpose in life, I would imagine, and I'm kind of just paraphrasing that story, but you've heard it, I'm sure, a handful of times. Yep. I have. Maybe it's not a custodian, maybe it's a mechanic, and maybe it's not a college, maybe it's a church, but we've heard those stories. And your point about purpose is right there. The purpose was that church. Maybe that maintenance guy at the church loved seeing youth come up in the church, loved seeing young couples grow and have families, and that was his purpose. And the custodian loved seeing the spark of education and young adults coming and growing into adults with purpose to go out in the world and create their own impact. I love how you talk about that. So so somebody listening, somebody watching today, they're like, all right, I'm kind of grooving on this purpose thing. Give us some tips, some steps to shift out of that. Okay, well, I got to go to work. I got to provide for my family. I know I need to be saving money, investing money, having money work for me. What are some of these intermediary things that they need to do to get this shift moving for them?
Well, the first thing is change how you talk, how people talk to themselves. It's not that I have to go to work, I have to do these things. I get to. There's billions of people on this planet that would kill for the jobs that people complain about here in this country. And if you look at, I don't care where you live in this country, if you look at where you are compared to the rest of the world, most people would consider you wealthy. So we need to look at that as an opportunity. I start my day every single day with a gratitude list, 3 things. And I try to pick one thing out of what I read that morning, and then 2 things that might be completely random. Sometimes they're huge things. Sometimes they're really, really small. Like one of my things this morning was, I'm just grateful that it hasn't snowed in like a week here in Alaska. We had so much snow, and it's pretty and nice, but I was like, I need a break. I don't want to shovel every day when I come home from work. But being grateful for what we already have. There's like these peace and prosperity gospel preachers talking about, you're grateful, you give money and God will give you more. And sometimes that happens, maybe, but being grateful actually doesn't guarantee that you'll have more. What it does, it helps you notice what you already have been given. It helps you notice the blessings that are already in your life. And I think that is really, really important. It helps you have a better vision of your future when you are more grateful for your present. And again, how you're taught, that self-talk is really, really important. But it also is important to be future looking, to realize that every decision that you make, you are either serving or stealing from the future version of you. The future version of you will come. That person, you haven't met him yet, but he or she will be here eventually. And you want that person to be proud of the decisions that you're making in this moment. And I think having that perspective is also really important. But here's where this purpose and this meaningful pursuit is really important, Jeff, is building wealth is a slow process. It takes time. There's a lot of sacrifice. It sometimes can be fairly simple. I think my industry can overcomplicate it, but there's some very simple things to building wealth, building sustainable wealth, but they're hard and they're mundane. It's not sexy and exciting. So if our goal is just to have enough money that we can quit our jobs one day, that's too small. That's not compelling enough to make the necessary sacrifices to really strive and go after this thing. So we have to infuse our passions and our heart in the things that really matter, things that wake us up in the morning, whether we need to go to work or not. Those are the things to focus on. So it is as 2-part, this a little bit of a paradox. We were trying to balance being grateful for the moment, but also anticipating and striving for the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just kind of let you wrap there, because I love everything you're saying. I believe in it, the self-talk. I phrased it about, well, I have to go to work, I have to pay this bill. Obviously I'm grateful of everything that I have in life, the things that I get to do. I'm coming to you now. I told you in the pre-show, I've been under the weather really since the beginning of the new year. Don't know quite all what it means yet. I'm not stressing about it. I'm just grateful I have access to great doctors, and I guess you could call it health insurance. It is health insurance, but it's also different. Like I get, tomorrow I get to go do an X-ray and only pay $45 out of pocket. And because of that same relationship, my son, who's our football player, we actually have a neurology MRI scheduled for him. We're just doing some preemptive stuff there. I'm fortunate that we only need to pay a few $100 for that MRI, and that's cash pay, and so some people could look at that and say, wow, that really must suck. But no, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful to have those connections and have those relationships in life. And that practice of gratitude is so important. I think if anybody takes anything away from this today, it's what Chad said. And it's been a common theme with a lot of my guests here on the show, and something that I talk about. I mean, for crying out loud, one of the things, it's around here somewhere. One of the tools that I've created for people that I help is a daily battle plan. And it's a practice of gratitude every day, writing it down, and you could say, well, I have an app for that. Get away from the app, pen and paper, feel the experience of gratitude each day for yourself. I love it. So as you were talking there, you said, it's boring. It really, what the theme of what you shared in your last moment was discipline to not steal from your future self. I think, you're either starving your future self or feeding your future self, I think is what you said. But really it comes down to discipline. And something popped into my head. What's your view of our young adults today and what they're seeing as far as wealth goes, and the way to acquire wealth? Obviously you're a family man, you've got 6 kids. I love that you homeschool your kids. So kudos to that. I know that is not easy as all. Everybody watching this who has kids, really coming up on 4 years ago, next month after, shared in that experience of homeschooling, so they know the discipline it takes. So I belabor this point to share that when Chad tells you achieving wealth is about discipline, this is a man who lives discipline. This is a man who lives what he talks about in financial planning. It's not just about the money, it's about everything around it to support the goal. So I'll let you answer. What is your view of how kids are viewing wealth, how kids are viewing success today, and how do we have to help guide them to what we know is an alternative way to achieve that success?
Well, draw me back to your question if I need to, but let me give a little context for this. So we are designed as human beings to be very much present focused, because a few thousand years ago, we weren't worried about saving for a house or saving for retirement or paying for our kids' college. We were worried about going to sleep and being attacked in the middle of the night, or being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, or having the neighboring tribe come through. So it wasn't about the future. We're very much wired to live in the present. We have a immediate gratification wiring. That's how our wet work is created. But we're living in a delayed return environment, and it's exacerbated now, I think, by technology and social media, where it's so easy for people to put their best foot forward, to show you the new car, the big house, the expensive vacation. And the people looking at this online aren't realizing that it's financed. The couple fought every day of that vacation, and that car is about to be repossessed. And maybe it's not. Maybe they paid cash for it, but did they sacrifice their family? Did they sacrifice their health? Did they sacrifice who they are as a person, their own integrity, to make the money to pay? We don't know. All we know is people are flashing this stuff constantly, and we already have an immediate gratification bent or leaning. So when we're flashing all this exciting, sexy stuff that grabs our attention, it's really hard to be patient and to do the mundane thing. And we already started talking about football, but it's focusing on the fundamentals. Working with my kids, and they want to practice these one-handed catches and they're doing their touchdown dances. I'm like, learn how to block and tackle. Like, that's what we need to focus on.
Amen.
And a touchdown that you catch with two hands is worth just as many points as a touchdown you catch with one. So we actually sat down and we watched Jerry Rice videos. Mm-hmm. And none of these catches are spectacular. And I was like, you know why? You know why he's not making one-handed diving catches?
Yep.
Because he was always in the right place at the right time. He was always exactly where he needed to be. And he did the basic things. And he was so fundamentally sound that he made it look easy. And that's the problem, is that people who build wealth, who do it right, they make it look easy. So people celebrate in public the sacrifices that folks make in private. And that's how wealth is as well. So when we look around, we don't actually see wealth. We see spending. And that's the exact opposite of wealth. And that's what gets our attention. So wealth is what's created behind closed doors. Spending is the fancy car, the things that we see. And Jeff, don't get me wrong. I have nice things, but I didn't always have nice things. I paid the price to get here. And I'm so blessed that we live in the area that we do, that I like cars. Cars are terrible investments. Anything with four wheels and a motor is going to cost you money, not make you money, right? So, but again, my point is that we're seeing the exact opposite. We see spending, not saving. We see purchases, not investing. So for kids, they're just trying to figure out this world. That is incredibly distracting. And one of the biggest problems, Jeff, is that their parents aren't doing it either. And it's one thing to tell your kids to save, to do this, do that. But if mom and dad are getting a car loan every 2 or 3 years, mom and dad are fighting about money, mom and dad are struggling to pay the bills, they're complaining about their jobs. There's a saying that more is caught than taught. And I believe that. You can tell somebody something, but if you're showing them something else, that's really confusing. And you had somebody on your show here recently. They was talking about money and how we just need to normalize conversations about that. And you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have the answers. Just bring it up in conversation, because a lot of people have the same worries and frustrations when it comes to money, but they pretend, or in their mind, they think it's got to be only me. Nobody wants to be that one person in class that raises their hand when the professor's like, do you have any questions? We all pretend like we've got it figured out. So I think as parents, we need to be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm not going to be emotionally about it, but just like, hey, this is what mom and dad are dealing with. And they don't need to get into the details. Kids don't need to know dollars and cents, but it's okay to, in a healthy way, say, here's what our frustration was, or here's a big hurdle that we overcame. I was just telling my kids this a few weeks ago. I was telling about a time when I remember sitting at a gas station, filling up a tank of gas, and I was struggling. We were struggling so badly financially. It was very early on. I was building the business. We were barely taking a salary. Couldn't really even afford to take the salary that we were. And I was watching the meter tick up on this at the gas station. Just like, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop. Because every dollar it ticked up, I knew was a dollar that I was gonna have a hard time finding. And it's a gas station here in town, but I hardly ever go there. And I was there just a few weeks ago, and it brought back that memory of just that feeling of scarcity. So I've been there, but I wanted to share that with them. Like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to drive a crappy car. And I know one of your sons, from listening to one of your shows, one of your sons has a Mustang. My kids found out that my first car was a Mustang. And I was like, you got to hold your horses here. No pun intended. But I was like, do you know what a 1984 Mustang looks like? So we looked it up online. My 9-year-old son, he's 10 now, but he's like, that was a Mustang? And I was like, yeah. He goes like, that is so ugly. I'm like, it was horrible. It was uglier than homemade sin. But that's what I drove. It's $1,800. I paid $1,800 for my car, and it was garbage. It burned as much oil as it did gas. It was nice because you didn't have to change the oil. You just added more because it just filtered out. But those were the things. But I've never had a car loan. I paid cash for college, and I was blessed to have some scholarships that really helped. And I did some dumb things too. Don't get me wrong, Jeff, but it's the boring, mundane stuff. Sometimes it's just the avoiding the mistakes.
Yep.
It's not all the great things you do that build wealth and financial security. It's eliminating all the mistakes so you're not digging yourself out of a hole. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer. But
no.
Hopefully that gave your audience some things to chew on.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think as parents, parent to parent, peer to peer, we need to be reminding each other of these conversations with our kids, just like we need to be reminding our kids of the conversations about money and finance in the home. You know, our oldest boy is 19, soon to be 20. He lives here at home. We're happy to have him here at home. He's not a college kid. He's not a book kid. So, you know, mom and dad here, we're looking at these next 4 or 5 years. You know, we're looking at these as like, okay, well, it's the university of mom and dad, so to say. And we're teaching the things, you know, he did get that Mustang. He worked hard for it to get it. We own it. I say we, because, you know, it's just cheaper for insurance purposes if it's the son driving dad's car under dad's roof, as opposed to the 18, 19-year-old with a Mustang on his own. Right. But, you know, we remind both of our sons all the time. Like, we got them new phones for Christmas. They had 4 or 5-year-old phones. And I said to each of them, I said, okay, for you, Ethan, you need to be spending more time on this nice new phone, looking at what you want to do in your career. Where do you want to take this management level you've now achieved and worked hard for at Chick-fil-A? You want to expand on that because you have opportunity there? Or do you want to go into a trade because that's where he feels he wants to go? Like, let's spend some time with it there. The younger one, hey, it's time to start building that social media profile for football. You know, and what better way to do that with a nice new iPhone? You know, like, we invested in these tools. Now you got to make them work. And we talk about what the cost of internet here is. We talk about what the cost of food is. I mean, the football player eats about 5,000 calories a day, and that's Aiden. And Ethan, he's into muscles and weightlifting and, you know, all this stuff. And he probably eats about 3,500. I'm feeding 4 adults with 2 mouths here. And I let them know, like, hey, mom and dad, go get a whole beef cow a year and spend that money, because we save a ton of money. And we're happy to do it because we're supporting your dreams. But understand, this isn't free.
Yeah.
Everything you see around here is intentional and with purpose. You know, and so that I just kind of wanted to put a little bow on that part of what you touched on.
Well, I can totally relate. So go back, you mentioned 2020, you know, the whole COVID thing and all that, people homeschooling. So we had a baby March of 2020. So like right in the thing, right at the beginning. And my wife normally does the Costco shopping, but obviously I was doing it for a few weeks there. So, I mean, this is like right at the beginning, like things are getting locked down, you know, everybody's freaked out, buying reams of toilet paper. And I'm in Costco and I've got my cart just loaded up. And this guy's like, oh, I see you're stocking up. And I was like, no, man, I've got 6 kids. This is how every week looks like. This is just a normal shopping day. But what I love about what you just said, though, is you're teaching your kids about intentionality, that your actions today have a ripple effect into the future. And it doesn't mean that their goals can't change. Your son might decide years later, yeah, I'm going to go back to school, like something a little fire, or he might go into the trades. A lot of our clients are in the trades: electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, law enforcement. We've got a lot of folks in the oil industry. I've got truck drivers that are multimillionaires that we work with. I've got plumbers that are multimillionaires. I mean, it's and I've met doctors that live paycheck to paycheck. So,
brother, I could tell some stories too. Yep.
Yeah. But it's about intentionality, and your goals can change. But a lot of people, they wake up every day like their life is an accident, and maybe they save money, but they're not really strategically building towards anything. They're just kind of collecting investments, and they budget one month and they don't the next. But I think it's important for folks to have something they're always looking towards, something that draws them. We talk about like a blueprint. It's something they follow because there's something out here that they want. And there's a pathway and a process that they follow. Now, their goal might change, and that's okay, because the blueprint can change too. You build a house, you change your goals a little bit, the blueprint gets revisited and revised to keep you on track. And that's how life should be. But we should always have some sort of construct or process that we're following that connects our current actions to our future goals. And that's exactly what you're doing with your boys. And I think that's what we as parents need to model. Because if we're living our lives on accident, it's really hard to have our kids living proactively.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man. Love that we're in alignment there. I love how you've got that heart-driven purpose for blue collar millionaires, as you call them. You've actually got a book coming out in April. It's in pre-order status. I guess can you go pre-order that now on Amazon, or is that something you get through your website?
They can go to Amazon or forgingfinancialfreedom.com. They can pre-order the Kindle version. Here in another month or so, we'll have a pre-order for the paperback version as well. But it's just kind of a stepwise process. And really, this book is a lot about what we were talking about. It's not a bunch of steps and checklists. It's more about mindset and perspective, because wealth is a slow process. And if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have the right attitude, it doesn't matter whose process you're following, you're probably not going to be able to execute it long enough to get the results. Because it's about the fundamentals. It can get boring. It can get monotonous at times, and it's difficult, but it's worth it. It's worth the price that you pay for your future. Yeah.
I mean, it really truly is. We touched on, years ago, we touched on this theme. I don't know that you said it exactly. Like our parents, our grandparents, their generation, you worked 20, maybe 30 years somewhere. Maybe it wasn't something you had any purpose or connection to at all, but our society was such that you sacrificed, but you did then have that, 15, 20 years, maybe more in retirement to really, truly enjoy retirement. You had that pension, cost of living was far different. And we can bemoan that doesn't exist today. But what we have that our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents didn't have is technology at our fingertips. Mm-hmm. We have the ability to unlock so much opportunity for ourselves. Referencing my son, my oldest boy and his career, we actually brushed up his resume. We worked together on that. As an employer myself, I said, well, here's what I like to see on resumes when I'm looking at candidates. And so we put some of that in, and I made mention that, in a past construction job, one of the reasons he left was there was no purpose within that company to cultivate new people. And that despite really trying hard and using YouTube as a resource to learn what he wasn't getting on the job, that was laughed at, mocked, bemoaned. But I'm like, man, that just makes you that much more determined and have that much more perseverance to go achieve this thing. And our young people today do have that benefit. They should be grateful for it. And we do have that opportunity. It wasn't that long ago that being somebody blue collar and buying books was just unheard of. Now on your phone, you can just go get your book and get it and get this. And I mean, I love that we're in this moment of time. We just need we need people like you, folks like me, hosting folks like you, to reinforce that this does take purpose and intentionality and discipline. One thing I wanted to ask you, and it's totally out of left field, and I do this sometimes. So in Alaska, as I understand it, folks get from the state the oil proceeds and dividend checks. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So it's a fund, almost like an endowment, so to speak. It was set up for the state, and the residents get a little piece of that every single year.
So are you seeing people be good stewards of that money? Are they making money with that money? Are they spending that money?
I think it's like anything. People who are naturally good stewards that are intentional with their life and their spending are going to be pretty good stewards with that. But people who are living reactively, who are impulsive, are going to be pretty impulsive with that. So I think however people are treating their money normally pretty much determines how that money is treated. So that comes out in October. It varies from person to person, it varies from year to year, but it's a substantial amount of money. But we've seen, because it comes out every October, there's a huge percentage of our population that spends that money before it even gets in. And there's a lot of businesses around that capitalize on that. Like the airlines will run dividend specials, and you can buy your tickets now, and then you pay when your dividends come in. And furniture stores will do that. Buy now, take your couch home today, in October when that money comes in. So a lot of times people have that money spent, but before they even receive it. And we always joke, like, you do not want to be in an electronics store or even like a Walmart, like the day that those hit direct deposit, because you have people that can't even pay their bills going out and buying a brand new $2,000 80-inch screen TV. And it's just, so, I mean, money is never the issue. We've already talked about driving. You put your 16-year-old who's probably not a phenomenal driver yet, and maybe he's bumping into some things. You give him a Ferrari, he's not going to be a better driver. More horsepower doesn't fix poor driving skills.
Right.
And the same thing with money. So when you have somebody with bad money habits, you give them more money, they're just going to get into an accident with it bigger and faster than they were before. And a lot of people feel like, oh, I have all these issues with money. Once I have more, that'll fix it. No, you're just driving poorly with a faster car at that point. And like you said, you nodded your head when I talked about meeting, physicians or attorneys or professional athletes that live almost dollar to dollar, paycheck to paycheck. More money doesn't fix that. They just have a shovel to dig themselves a deeper hole. So there's a lot of people out there that I think try to out earn bad decisions, and it just doesn't work. It's not a sustainable process. So that's a very long-winded way to answer your question, but in a succinct way, we see a lot of people squandering and wasting that money. That's probably the norm, because people who are intentional and careful and good stewards of their money, those people are becoming more and more rare these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've heard that you said a substantial number, I believe, is about $1,500, $2,000 a year.
It varies between 1,000 and 2,000. So if you've got somebody with, family of 3 kids, that could be $8,000-$10,000 that hits their bank account, and I mean, that'd be more than that family makes in a month. It's like having a whole other month of income, maybe more, maybe less, but because people know it's coming, there's that expectation, almost an entitlement.
It's that itch they're scratching. I wanted to get that number out because, like our oldest boy and our youngest, even, it's harder for our youngest because he's not working as much, being in high school, as focused with football as he is. But our oldest, we've said, we're going to get you that investment account, get you throw out $100 a month. So that, that $1,500 number, $1,200 number, man, you don't, like, if an 18-year-old would just throw that into an investment account, they'd be a millionaire by what, like 37, 38? Is that about how the math cracks out?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And instead of going to Walmart and buying a TV, just throw it in that account. Like,
well, and here's the other benefit of it.
Big difference there.
Sorry to interrupt, Jeff, but the other benefit isn't just the financial, it's the behavioral, the habit of putting money aside, the habit of paying your future self on a regular basis. Because a lot of people will make excuses that there's always a finish line out there. There's always a milestone saying, when I get promoted, or when I get this job, or when I graduate college, then I'll start being a good steward of my money. Then I'll start saving. Then I'll start investing. But you have to build the habits now. It'd be kind of like saying, I'm not gonna go to the gym until I get in shape. I'm gonna get in shape first, and then I'm gonna start working out. No, you have to start with wherever you are. And maybe you're only lifting 10-pound weights right now, but if that's where you have to start, that's where you have to start. If you can only afford to save $20 a month, start with $20 a month. Create the habits that pay your future self, so you're not stealing from that person.
Love it. Love it. Man, I have thoroughly enjoyed our time today. It's easy to see how you are living a living example of how you guide your clients. You live this out every day with your wonderful family. I want to say kudos to your wife for being at home with the kids, doing the homeschool thing, you guys doing that together. So I'm sure she gets into that moment of gratitude, reflections of gratitude often. But it's easy to see that Chad is somebody who, as a steward of other people's money, is living it out. And that's an example, whomever you might choose to use, that you ought to stress test and check. You know, that financial planner shows up in a nice suit, nice Lexus. Maybe you ask some questions. Maybe you do some research. You can check out somebody like Chad through a podcast like this, because this is somebody who's living it out. And so it's easy to see how he gets the results he gets for his clients. And if you want more, you can get it in his new book that's coming out in April. I said that was pre-order through April.
Mm-hmm. It'll be released at the end of April.
Yeah. And so, Chad, we've had your website on the screen. We've got your contact information in the show notes, but I always like to give people the opportunity to say, what is the best way to connect with you, ask you questions, contact your firm if somebody's ready to move forward. What would be the best way to do that for them?
We've got the website up right now. It's veritasalaska.com. You can also email ask at veritasalaska.com. And we'll get in touch. We'll find somebody that can help answer your questions. It might just be a simple question. Maybe you don't even know what your questions are, and just say, hey, I need to start making a better future for myself. What is the first step? And we will help you do that. Happy to answer difficult questions and to help you ask the right questions. And even though it's Veritas Alaska, that's where I founded this, but we have clients all over the United States. So I don't care if you're in Philly.
Very good. I was going to ask that.
Yeah. We're all over, and we have a very transient culture here in Anchorage. So a lot of our folks do end up moving out of state, and so we work with folks all over.
Yeah. One last question, because it's an important one to ask before we go, because I think it stops a lot of people from reaching out to great people like yourself. So you're in a difficult position. Maybe you've not saved any money. Maybe you got a bunch of debt. Maybe that new job has come and you are starting to make some money, and you're being smart and at least putting it in a savings account, not touching it. But still, you're looking at a hill that's pretty steep, pretty high. And there's some shame there, some embarrassment, some guilt. You've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help somebody make that phone call and reach out to you?
Your future starts today, and you decide your actions, your behaviors, your choices, decide if that future is going to be a positive trajectory or a negative. And it starts with a simple decision every single day: which direction you're going to go. You're going to serve your future self, or you're going to steal from that person. And there's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. And that's what people have listening, is right now. Don't put it off. Don't kick the can down the road. Don't worry about the decisions that you've made in the past. You have the future. Worried about the path ahead, and start making the right decisions there. Any financial advisor has seen, that's been around for 10 years or more, has seen everything from A to Z. They've seen people make way worse decisions than you have, do things that are much dumber than anything you've ever done. And they've also seen the other end of that too. They've seen people make phenomenal decisions. So don't be embarrassed. Again, don't feel like you need to get in shape to go to the gym. Just sign up and start. You don't need to have your finances figured out to start building a financial plan. Start right now with what you have and start making a difference in your future.
Love it. Love it. Chad, thank you so much, man. Go Eagles. I love that your little boy's into the Eagles. Go Blue. And
yes, sir.
I'll, maybe as this next football season here comes around, and we get back in season, I'll try to get a picture of my son, myself, and Chad, and send it your way for you and your boy. See if we can't make that happen as Michigan fans. So Man, I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time, offering all your wisdom. Please do follow Chad's pages. We've got all his socials in the show notes. They've been on the screen. Order his book, please. I'd love for that to happen as a result of your time listening to the show today. Forging Financial Freedom. It's on pre-order on Amazon now. There's information about it on his website too, veritasalaska.com. Chad, thank you so much for being here today on The Big Ticket Life. Appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of The Big Ticket Life. You've heard from another amazing guest living their own big ticket life, and now it's time to live yours. First, I'd love for you to take me up on my free gift to you. Claim your gift at gift.thebigticketlife.live. That's gift.thebigticketlife.live. See, all your life you've been told what is and what isn't possible by the loudest voices from the cheapest seats. It's time to finally do life and business on your terms. Sure, you've heard similar things, but without clarity on what can be done, it's easy to have your customers, employees, maybe even partners, and your spouse keep you from truly living a big ticket life. My big ticket methods shift you into that investor seat in your business, away from commodity and away from competition, into a market of one, so you can finally live your own big ticket life. So my gift to you is for you to book your discovery call today, where we'll uncover first the Chivo behaviors, those chief everything officer behaviors that hold you back, and why moving into the investor seat in your own business is critical. 2, we'll uncover the premium position that's up for grabs right now in your market that you're missing out on. And 3, which big ticket methodologies are just waiting to be dropped into your business to explode your sales and profits. So again, thanks for listening to this episode. I'd love for you to take action right now. Accept this gift, book your call, go to gift.thebigticketlife.live. Again, that's gift.thebigticketlife.live.